I'm Gabe Lullo, and welcome to the Do Hard Things podcast. We're talking to go-to-market leaders and entrepreneurs who have conquered the challenges, the hustle, and the grind. Get ready for real talk, real insights, and no fluff.
But the hardest thing in the world right now is not actually closing deals, it's actually getting somebody's attention.
If you don't have that hook in that first 5 to 10 seconds, guess what? They're going to scroll to the next one.
You need to go in and you need to make it sound like yourself. That's the biggest piece of the puzzle. And I promise you, we can all tell.
The people that are trolls and the people that are haters never done the thing that you're doing.
I love doing this podcast because I get a front row seat to some of the greatest minds in sales.
Gone are the days of saying stay in your lane. When you're an executive leader and you're an enterprise-wide leader, there are no lanes. You've got to be partners.
Curiosity is like when the type of questions you ask is sometimes the value that you bring.
I need you to tell me when you're ready to buy or what you're ready to do. And I think it's changed so much into like adding more value. And if you're not doing that, then you're definitely going to come off as desperate.
High pressure selling is like a dinosaur tactic at this point.
No parent is like, oh, you should be a salesperson when you grow up, right? Everyone's like a doctor, lawyer, whatever crap. It's never salespeople.
It's not your job to motivate people. It's your job to find motivated people.
It's not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's confidence knowing I know this and I know that I can help you.
From where I started to where I am today is all because I learned how to sell.
And there's too many people who have only been doing this for 5 freaking minutes. Sit down, close your mouth, actually go out there and get yourself beat up. Then come back and tell me if something is dead or not.
That is exactly why I started this podcast, because right there, that's the epitome of doing hard things.
Welcome back to the Do Hard Things podcast with Lexi and Gabe. Today's guest, Paul Higgins, is the Global Enterprise Sales Director at 3T Software Labs, where he leads worldwide enterprise sales for leading MongoDB IDE trusted by developers and data teams in complex, regulated environments. Paul is an award-winning sales and technology leader with 25 plus years building and scaling enterprise SaaS and data platforms globally. He's a founder with multiple successful exits and won Best Innovation of the Year at the Go Tech Awards for his unique multi-live streaming app, Vuyu. He also finds a way to balance doing his day job, developing new apps and systems at nights and weekends, as well as helping raise 4 children, 2 of which are disabled. What makes Paul unique is his ability to bridge the gap between technical fluency, not just with MongoDB, but with pretty much any SaaS system, and commercial strategy, turning complex technology into clear business value for CIOs, CTOs, and engineering leaders. Paul, welcome to the show.
Welcome everyone back to the Do Hard Things podcast with your hosts, Gabe and Lexi. We just heard your bio, Paul. We love it. We're so excited you're here. Thanks so much for joining us on the show, man. How you doing?
Yeah, honestly, it's been amazing. Just come off a huge event in London, finishing on the quarter on a really, really great result. Looking forward to next quarter. Just absolutely busy, new product launches and, everyday hectic life. So it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking with a friend of mine. He's in education. And I said, so have they figured out how to put a sales degree together yet in the schools? Because, no one goes to school for sales, right? So I just want to know, where did it start for you? How did this origin story start? What was that beginning intersection of, deep technical enterprise sales that you are in, and how was that intentional? Did you stumble into it? Where did this start for you, Paul?
Well, I mean, let's go back to school, right? I was actually always a salesy kind of person in school. From me stealing my brother's, cologne or aftershave, and charging 50p a squirt to all the boys, So I was always wanting to make money at school. And then, when I left school, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I actually didn't do too well in school. I actually hated writing and all that. I was like, but I want money. I want to be able to earn money. So what do I do? Okay, I actually got a job on an ice cream van. So I actually started my sales journey on an ice cream van, upselling ice cream, so for about a year. And then I managed to blag my way into a job with Barclays, got a post room job, and I walked past the call center floor and I heard this amazing buzz and I was like, I could be doing that. Okay, who do I need to speak to to stop delivering post in this building to get on the phone and use what I'm good at, right? Yeah. So blagged my way into a job, selling pensions and funds for Barclays, learned the kind of lingo and how to speak to people on the phone. And then again, I just moved randomly to an insurance brokerage because people were talking about me. This guy is really shit hot. Let's get him. He's making 150 phone calls a day. Right? Can we grab him? So I moved to an insurance. So I'm selling from pensions to insurance to businesses, and that is where I kind of experienced every aspect of business. I'm selling to convenience stores, to hotels, to restaurants, to corporate entities, moving my way up to the ladder from a £5,000 deal up to £1 million deals in the insurance industry. And then to get into the tech world, I actually fell in love with MySpace. Do you remember MySpace?
Oh
You have a
yeah.
MySpace, yeah, and you could put in you can put in like widget codes, HTML codes, and make it look all cool. And I was like, this is great. And then this is probably some of my age right now, yeah, is the websites that was back then before Google was like Yahoo. You find a website and like you think that looks rubbish. I can actually do something better than that. So I was thinking, okay, I want to actually get into designing websites. How do I do this? I download Dreamweaver, teach myself HTML, CSS, PHP, look at the back end, MySQL, how that works together. And then not only am I selling, insurance to people, I'm actually saying your website's rubbish, let me build you a website. And I'm built myself a side hustle, and I'm learning to go on, and then I jump into CMSs and learn all that. But my real actually game changing sales job was when I got a call from what a fantastic sales mentor called Dan McGuire. He just started up this company called Broadbean, and he was like, just read your CV, yeah. And at that time, that was when CVs were first just online. Before I was taking my CV to actually recruitment agencies, printing them out, going everywhere. And then he rings me up and he says, "You're making 150 phone calls a day. I want that kind of drive, and come work for me." First salesperson at Broadbean. And then he gave me 2 VHS tapes. He gave me Boiler Room and Glenglag and Ross. Changed my life. Changed my life because I've never watched him before. That's how you learn how to close. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. Him giving me that, and then him teaching me certain methodologies, and then pushing me into training, and then taking my 150 phone calls a day down to 40 research calls a day, and that was selling to the recruitment tech space. So I've gone from pensions to insurance to recruitment tech. Saw that company through to first exit, grew the team with them, grew it huge, made absolutely a boatload of money. On first exit, moved to a competitor, and I'm learning about integrations, and I'm learning about XML, and I'm learning about data, and all this kind of stuff, And that company got exited, and I'm thinking, okay, I can do this myself. I started up my own company. I actually built my own platform, a social media distribution platform, probably born from Broadbean, because Broadbean was a recruitment job distribution platform. So I'm thinking, right, social media is the boom. Okay, let me get into the boom. I created a social media platform. I then ended up selling that, exiting that personally. I did a few ad hoc stuff, other web design projects, mobile apps, and then I fall into insurance tech, and now I'm here at 3T, learning about, MongoDB, document databases, data governance. So my tech kind of experience that I've built up allows me to go into a company, sit with a CEO or a CTO or an FD, and speak every kind of language that they want to hear. You know, let me solve every problem that you've got. This is going to affect your bottom line. This is going to improve productivity. This is going to save you money. Every single persona I can actually talk and, when an IT guy is talking about, integrations and XML and HTTP post and all this kind of stuff, I'll be like, okay, I can see the gaps here. Let me plug that in. Here's the solution. He's happy. Okay, finance. Okay, this is actually going to save. This is going to cost cut. This is going to save your time. This is going to save your money, your bottom line. Okay, this. So that experience allows me to wear many hats, I suppose, within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been a founder with multiple successful exits and a sales leader at enterprise companies. How does the founder experience change the way you approach sales and go to market as an employee versus when you're building your own company?
I think it's the mistakes that you learn. Yeah, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. Starting out my own companies. Yeah, trusting the wrong people, making the wrong decisions. Taking on too much. And just taking that learning. Because then you can take that into obviously now being employed, and then passing that knowledge on to everyone else within my team. Or even moving up to the leadership. Hearing what their strategies are and be like, I actually tried that, it didn't work. Yeah. This is why the reason why it didn't work. Let's pivot and let's do this. So, bunny hopping on my failures, which would then, push me up to make them a success. In actually now working for a large organization like this. So I'm treating the large organization as a startup, with its own backing, as it were.
Right. So my mentor said to me a long time ago, he said, Gabe, don't be lazy in language. And what I didn't realize what that really meant until I got into sales and really when I got into technical sales. So most enterprise sales reps, right, are struggling to talk technical. And then most engineers are struggling to talk commercial. So you're able to do both. How did you develop, and dare I say, bilingual capacity, right? And why do you think that's so rare for people to get their arms around?
I think it's so rare because maybe, in this day and age, salespeople are just focused on what that product does, not how it works operationally behind,
Right.
how it sits within the architecture. Maybe not understanding other companies' architecture and where their flaws are. If you understand how something is built, and what the capabilities are and integrations, and then you can find the pain points of, what the tech team in that organization is facing and how this can plug in, and you can talk about, okay, now we can integrate this and integrate that and give you a whole 360 solution. You're happy now. Okay, take that feedback, go to the commercials and say, look, this is where we are. They're happy that it's done. So I don't know if it's about laziness. I just think it's about mindset, and especially the product that you're selling. You might be onboarded about how that product works as to how you're using it, but not really how it works. The capabilities, if you understand the database behind it, the powerfulness behind it, what language it's written in, what tech stack it's written in, and then if you've got a company that has the same sort of tech stack, there's an integration there. An integration is going to make it a more powerful offering. So you make that solution fit that part of the organization, and then go to the commercial side of it, and then just I think I blagged most of that. To be fair, I was blagging most of the commercial stuff that I was actually talking to. Um, I'm a different breed because I can sit in a CEO's room, and just I've swore in rooms. I'm flamboyant. I'm confident. I ooze the confidence. And you kind of get them on the same wavelength. They're human at the end of the day. I don't really put anyone up on the pedestal. I'm like, look, you're in this role. You've got to save the company money. You've got to make the company money. These guys have got a problem. I've just fixed it. This is it. Let's now talk turkey. Get your checkbook out, sign it. Yeah. I'm like that in a room. But other people, it's hard because their mindset is, I've got a product. I've just got to sell that product. I'm not thinking outside the box. I'm not thinking, where else I can fit this product in that organization.
Totally. So when selling to that technical buyer, what do you think they're really buying? Is it the technology, the business outcome, the risk mitigation? What do you think is the actual decision driver in that situation?
It actually could be the person. You know, if you're demonstrating, right, to them, you understand their problem and you've all of a sudden got that solution, doesn't matter whether it's the same, you know, the tech stack or whatever, but you're building that rapport because you're understanding the same terminology and language they're using, and they get you and you get them. Yeah. Then yeah, people buy from people, right? Yeah. You build that relationship up. And because you understand, you know, you understand that you're on the same wavelength, that has an impact, as well as the governance, the security risks, and all that. And you can bypass all of that because you can prove it works. You know, so as long as you're solving that problem that they've got, and you're demonstrating you can do that, and you're talking the same language, and you know, like, you know, you can ac- attribute that to another company has had that same pain point. So I've delivered it for them. I know exactly what you're on about. Yeah. Okay. Let's now formalize a solution around what you know what you're working with. Make it the same stack as what you're working with. So let's minimalize integration. Or if it's completely different, you know, let's work on a solution for that. And you know, you just build that rapport with that individual, and they'll champion you. You know, you can just take that champion, you know, who's making the decision in that company. It might be the FD, it might be the CEO, but they're taking that decision making process from the person that who's looking after the tech in that company, you know.
Yeah. So let's talk about GTM strategy a little bit and just sales cycles, because you've closed very large, highly complex, multi-year, 1.5 million pound contracts. So that enterprise sales cycle is notoriously long. It's very complex, as I mentioned. So what separates those deals from closing from the ones that are just dying on the vine in procurement, or just ghosting, or still evaluating and never getting out
Yeah.
of that black hole, if you will?
Well, I never forget my bread and butter. Okay, just because the big deals are there, the unicorns are there, I never forget the the low hanging fruit, the bread and butter that keeps you going. Okay, the large enterprise deals, yeah, procurement is an absolute nightmare. Yeah, I understand if a company has to go through it, um, but again, I make sure that I'm speaking to them at every step of the way, and I'm building that relationship up, and I'm pushing that forward, and I'm driving that forward, and I'm like, look, you know, the longer this delays, the more costly it's going to affect your company, because they've got our solution, because it's saving time, it's increasing productivity, it's making workflows better. So let's push this through. So I'm constantly, yeah, the sales cycles, I've got deals from 3 months to, actually taken me about a year and a half on my multi-year deal that I did with a global organization, so again, it's that relationship building. I'll make sure I've got a relationship with every part of the chain, right? Yeah, within that whole sales cycle. Make sure that my name and my face is in front, so I can get through to them. What's the delay? What else can I do? How can I get this through? So yeah, I'm very conscious of sales cycle, but I also understand the reasoning, behind, the companies delaying or having delays. So, but as long as the contract's signed, then that, I'm happy with it. They can pay whenever they want to pay. I'm going to get that check at the end of the day. So, but also, I think outside of the sales cycle, I enjoy the challenge of actually getting into a large organization. I enjoy the challenge of getting past a gate blocker, a gatekeeper, right? The methods that I have come up with to get in front of a CEO that refuses to take my call, that is the gratification that I get from certain deals, as well as talking tech, as well as getting it through procurement as well.
Yeah, totally. And we love our partnerships, and you've built partnerships with major players like Hayes, Harvey Nash, and 80% of UK's top 250 recruitment agencies. How do you approach that strategic partnership as a revenue channel? And when does a partner led model make more sense than direct sales?
I think that's also to do with the brand reputation and brand awareness that the the marketing department actually do as well. Without a strong brand, without that strong credibility, you can't really build partnerships up, or it would take a lot of time. Partnerships with organisations like that within the tech that I did, come down to other affiliations that I work with. I work in especially in recruitment tech, MPA Worldwide. They're a fantastic organization, and you get that credibility stamp from them, and you take that to these other organizations, and you say to the likes of Hayes, the likes of Manpower, and you say, look, we've got this credibility from this organization. Do you want to be a part of that? Here's what we're doing in the industry. We're disrupting the industry. Be a part of that journey. And it's important to go after the top 250 in any industry. For instance, 3T have got some of the world's largest organizations that are customers of ours. And that maybe took a long time because of that brand credibility that's been built up. So it's a two-pronged approach, by the sales and the marketing department.
So we talked sales cycles, we talked enterprise. Now, a lot of the clients you brought on are highly regulated industries too, which is another layer of complexity, right? You're talking Visa, Disney, BBC. Walk us through that unique challenge you're dealing with when you're targeting and you're selling into those regulated industries as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have to be, ISO and SOC 2 compliant, so that gives them that kind of reassurance, and you're understanding that they've got governance inside their organization, and you're helping with that governance that they've got. You know, a lot of large organizations also work with resellers as well, so we have to have partnerships with the resellers that sometimes makes it a bit easier for us to get into them organizations, but we still have that direct relationship with them. But then the deal could be done outside with a reseller because they've already been onboarded as a verified vendor for the procurement stage. That kind of makes it easy. But when you're talking outside of that, and then you're making them aware that our tool's gone through pen testing, it's gone through securities, it's gone through every time we do a release, it does this. You're giving them that assurance, that this is the tech that you need. We proved that it's going to save you time. We've improved that it's going to improve productivity. It's going to change the way you work. It's going to expand. It's going to help you grow. Here's the safety net that you've got by using, a tool like ours versus building it yourself or going open source. Making sure they understand the risks they've got if they build it internally, the future costs that they're going to have to incur by doing that. So yeah, and that's what they want to hear, right? Yeah, they want to make sure that the tools they're selecting is safe, and has a good reputation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned improving SQL to close rates by 40%, which is a massive improvement. What did you change, and how do you really diagnose why deals are stalling in the pipeline?
It is the research. It's the research that you do into that organization to prove that what we're delivering is needed by them. Okay. So when I say, I'm making 150 phone calls a day, right? That was me going through the yellow pages, as it were, or online directories. Okay. And my team doing the same. Okay. Right. Now we get that down to 40 researched phone calls. Okay. We know everything about them. We know how many, if I go back to my recruitment days, we know how many job boards they're posting a job to. They could be posting to 8. We know how long it takes for them to post a job. So then we can then calculate how much time they're spending equals how much money they're wasting. Yeah. In terms of on this organization, we know how much they're spending on tech. Yeah. Okay. How many developers they've got. We know if they're using a non-IDE, they're using Shell. We know the pain points that they're going to have. We know how long that's going to take. And then with an IDE, we know how long that's going to save. So we can immediately get in contact with these people and say, look, this is proven to save 8 hours a week. How much is that worth to you per developer, right? So it's researching, not just picking up the phone. I used to be called the phone monkey, yeah, because that was my nickname. I walk into an organization, or I walk into a conference, and everyone knows me as Monkey, yeah, because I was used to making them 150 phone calls a day. I was chucking enough mud in it here, but when you're doing researched calls, and you're actually spending time researching that organization and people in the organization, and then you're armed with that ammunition, you get that percentage up, right? So it's all about that.
So let's talk about exits and that founder journey, because so many people listening in our audience, want to have those successful exits as well, and you've had multiple. So you're also not giving away trade secrets, which is also awesome. So walk us through, what did those teach you about building, building up those valuable companies, and how did that experience really inform the way you sell and build partnerships today?
Again, yeah, I think it's the people around you. Yeah, I've got a good eye for a good salesperson, also, or a person that has that transferable skills. Okay, that makes a difference to your organization. Yeah, and you're relying on them to build your brand up and bring in the customers and the data that allows you to then to go out to market and exit and disrupt that industry. If that type of person, I'm looking for a kind of a mini me, a replicable me. Yeah. Okay. I don't clock off, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, um, maybe hard to find someone like me that, doesn't watch TV and doesn't like sport and doesn't drink and stuff like that. And is on the laptop 24/7, you know what I mean? Or thinking of ways I can self promote or promote the brand, but if you do find that unique person, or you can then train people to have that mindset, that has a great effect on how and when you can exit, right? Yeah. Um, Building up the user base, building up the revenue, building up the brand and the partnerships and the affiliations, and making sure you've got a scalable model, keeping your revenues in line, so you're not overspending, maximizing everything that you can get out of the company, by using free tools, I suppose, to push your marketing out, using free image generation, so anything you can get hold of to squeeze every penny out of your expenditure and reduce it, makes your exit that little bit easier. But again, making sure that if you've made a mistake 6 months ago, you're not going to repeat that again. Because I have lost a lot of money by making silly mistakes. But then realizing as well that, okay, you've just messed up big time. Okay, every negative has a positive. Right, okay, yeah. Don't dwell on the things that you fucked up on. Right? I've lost millions, absolute millions, made huge mistakes, and I don't let it affect me. Yeah, you just know that you can keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and something is going to come along the way, and make things better if you keep pushing. The more you put in, the more you get out. It's that old saying, really.
Yeah, totally. And you've generated 150 plus qualified enterprise leads per quarter, which is massive. And a lot of sales teams really struggle with that balance between lead quality and volume. What's one thing you think most B2B companies are doing wrong in their lead generation or qualification process?
I've used a lot of data companies, I mean, Zoom Info, Cognitism, Clay, with AI now, you can actually go and use via prospecting and go and prospect yourself with automation tools, like LinkedIn Helper or Dripify or tools like this, they will help you lead generate. But it's not all about you going out and getting leads. It's obviously about, you pushing your brand on communities. Okay. Communities is where the lost leads are. Okay. Like Facebook groups, yeah, LinkedIn groups, Reddit subgroups. But don't push the product, push a question, get the interactivity, and then monitor all of that, and they become leads. I joined a group, I think there was about 250,000 people in that group, and you post the right content, and then that gets them engaged, and then you take them because they're interested in the content that you've got. That becomes a lead. That's not cost you anything. That's free. You post in five questions, a week into a group like that. Boom, you've just got 100 people interacting with you. There's 100 leads. It's not costing you. Yeah. And then with obviously the boom with AI, you can get AI to help you even write that leadership content and put that in there. That's going to get that engagement through. So yeah, you can use lead generation tools, but you're missing the trick if you're not actually working with communities. But don't push your brand or your product. Make sure you're doing interactive content, with them.
Awesome. So for the sales leaders who are listening that really want to move up market into enterprise, and they want to start selling those complex products, what would be a single most important skill or mindset that they would need to have to make that move?
uh, Determination, determination, perseverance. There was one particular company that I was absolutely determined to get in. It was my unicorn. Yeah, my unicorn. And I could not get in there for love nor money. They had fantastic gatekeepers and I respected it. And I went above and beyond to get into this organization. Okay. I borderline stalkings, right? I found this guy's picture on LinkedIn. I did a reverse image search, found his Facebook profile, found that he shared his wife's bakery in Illinois, phoned up his wife's bakery, put an order in for some cakes with a note in, can you please call me? Blah, 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 Paul. Yeah. Send that to your husband, paid for it. And so he had to do that. And he literally opened it and he called me and he said, give me a call at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah. And then literally that's how I got in with him. Think over above and beyond what you can do, yeah, to get through to these people. There's loads of ways, you can get right, in front of the right person.
That's
Really
incredible.
great story.
Love that. Final question here. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a founder or sales leader trying to scale enterprise revenue in a highly technical, competitive space?
Or work on your brand, work on making sure you disrupt the industry. Yeah. Come up with something that is a unicorn. If it's not a unicorn and you're competing with people in the same sort of space, yeah. Value your product. Yeah. Justify the value that you're offering. you know um Making sure that if your scale, it's not putting a dent in your pocket. Yeah. Keep your costs low at the beginning, and maximize partnerships and affiliations to do brand pushing for you as well. Yeah, get other people to work for you for free until they bring you in a deal in. Affiliations and resellers and stuff like that is a great quick route to market if you haven't got your pockets lined with cash, as it were. And always remember that you're going to fuck up, and everyone fucks up. Okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, learn from that, and just don't repeat it. Yeah. And make sure that you look on the positive side. It's that positive mental attitude you always have to have when you're selling, when you're building a business, even when you're coding and you've messed up big time. Yeah, don't worry about it, don't stress about it. As long as you're living and you're breathing, yeah, it's not going to affect you. Yeah. So yeah, that's that advice I think is golden. And if you want to get into the bigger organizations, look at other ways you can get in there rather than just picking up the phone and then giving up. If you really want that company, if you want to get in front of that person, find a way, because if you find a way, they will then speak to you. So that will be one of my golden rules.
And if you have a hard time, get their wife to send a box of baked goods with a note in it to say, call me, right?
There you go. There you go. And then you get the deal. That actually turned into a 1.2 million deal for a 5-year deal. And yeah, that was literally it's one of my most awesome deals that I'm proud of. And I've done out of the box stuff like that all my life. Yeah.
Right.
And it works. And with now data being scarce, with people not wanting to put their phone number on, and GDPR and compliance, you've got to think outside the box. Yeah. You've got their address, send them something in the post, invest in yourself, spend not $100 on some cakes for the office. Do it. Spend some, find out what they're interested in, stalk them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever they're sharing. If they like a football game, send them 2 tickets.
Right.
Or whatever, stuff like this. Just think outside the box, and yeah, you'll get through to him.
And when you close a $1.2 million, deal on it, it's for sure worth it. So
yeah,
Paul,
exactly.
thank you so much for joining us on the show. Words of wisdom, and we're so happy that you're on the show. Real quick, who would be the best person to reach out to you, and what's the best way for them to connect with you and reach out?
Yeah, I mean, you can just find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Paul2Higgins. That's my brand. Search Paul2Higgins. You'll find me on pretty much any platform. Or, if you want to talk about document databases and IDEs or ETLs, 3T is the way to go. Just Google Studio 3T. Yeah, just find me. I take any phone call and any email, and I listen to any advice that I get, and I'll give any advice that anyone wants to hear.
Thank you so much, Paul. You're awesome. We appreciate it. And for everyone listening, keep doing the hard things. And Lexi and I will see you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you.